Now, Tarot, we continue our discussion on the Tarot de Marseille with the La Papesse. The La Papesse signifies, in most of the books that you read, about Pope Joan, who, according to legend, was a woman who reigned as a pope for a few years during the Middle Ages. So her story appeared in chronicles in the 13th century and spread throughout Europe. Some regard it as fictional, but the story goes that Joan disguised herself as a man to get into positions, into job positions, and climbed the ladder, was eventually elected pope. However, during a church procession, she gave birth. So the game is up. So she was discovered, and that was the end of her reign as pope. So you sort of see a lot of that, or a lot of similarities, or a lot of pointers to that particular story. So let's look through sort of the symbolism within the card and see what we have. We do have a veil here and a veil here. So this maps to, obviously, the High Priestess from the Rider-Waite-Smith deck. And the veil here is sort of straight. So it only protects her from what's behind her, or it only shields her from what is behind. However, in La Papesse, it sort of wraps around, so it's more protection. So we have more protection there. So a very important point to remember is that La Papesse has a bit more protection than was offered to, let's say, the High Priestess, for example. So the other thing about La Papesse is she has this blue inner liner in there, sort of pointing to a detachment or pointing to a bit of coldness within there, right? And that's reinforced by her white face, which again points to points to a more detached attitude or a more detached personality, which I assume you would have to be at some point. You'd have to be more detached to get away with the ruse of all of that. So if you'll look at the facial features of the magician obviously has a more normal colored face there, which would indicate that he is more in tune with his audience, or he's more connected to people, and he's more caring and things about like that. So you have that in the magician, but in La Papesse, we have more of a paler face. And we'll look at the differences between this La Papesse and the ones from previous decks and previous artists as well. The other thing you'll note is just the massive amount of clothing she has on, which seems to be required for the story, right? The story of La Papesse and Pope Joan. So the other thing that you'll notice is instead of a scroll, that she has a book. So this would indicate that she is more knowledgeable or more learned, as they say, right? She's more knowledgeable and she is more educated and has more of an education or more of a larger wealth of knowledge than, let's say, the High Priestess over here, who is more of an intuitive type symbol, is obviously with the moon and whatnot. So this one is more learned and more educated. So this is not someone, obviously, that is going to be going out and fighting a war or fighting battles or anything like that. So this is going to be someone who gets their notoriety from education, gets their notoriety from knowledge. And this is going to be sort of indicated within the card and within the skin tone, etc., of being detached. So you also notice that the outfit has just a variety and almost even level of most of the colors. And that sort of, again, that's that blending in, trying to blend in with everything else, trying to blend in with everyone else. And you have that especially with her expression too. You have that expression with the High Priestess, but this expression is going to be blending in, or trying to blend in. So we do have some authority and some power. And you'll see that throughout the deck. Let's discuss that for a moment. When we have authority and power, when you have authority and power positions, you sort of have this combination between boy, girl. So in places of power and in positions of power, we have both the male dominant figure, so the male, sort of that male power, the male authority, and then combined with that fire of the male authority and going forth and ruling the kingdom type thing. And then we have the female aspects. We have the yin and the yang combination between the two, but it only applies, it seems, to authority or positions of power, sort of indicating that you need not only that male aspect with that domination or the maybe a bit over the top domination, ruling, and things like that, but we also have that gentleness and the knowledge and thoughtfulness of the female aspect as well. So we have that feminine and masculine combination, and that's going to be important to sort of notice this, that when you have power, you need both the masculine and the feminine. And that sort of goes back to this combination of which. But the only one that has the paleness skin or the detachment, and again, this is from the CBD book, from the Yelv's book talking about the CBD tarot, and other books talk about the facial paleness being the detachment, by the way, in case you're wondering where I get that. So that is that. So we have that yin and the yang, the male and female aspect in the positions of power. When we get out of the positions of power, let's say the chariot driver, let's say maybe a judge. A judge is a position of power, but I mean, clearly a pope and an emperor have significantly more power than the wise old man. You don't see a wise old woman, or you don't see, I think this is a woman in my personal opinion, you don't see a man as a justice. So you don't really, you could, I guess, combination these, but it's just my opinion that once you have these positions of power, you have that male, female, boy, girl type thing. Let's go back to her and the high priestess, and then go back with the magician. So we have that combination, we have this hiddenness. So it sort of points again to the meaning of a better layer of protection here, a better layer of protection, more protection. So if we're doing this in a reading and we want to know sort of what level of protection we have from, let's say, a lawsuit, what level of protection we have from a recall on our car, whatever, it's going to be a bit more with this particular thing as well. Now, as well as knowledge, book knowledge, wisdom is going to be greatly increased with this one, let's say, compared to this one. So, but she is looking towards the past, the same way the magician is looking towards the past. A lot of these characters are looking towards the past. So if you're looking for a meaning as far as a direction of looking, not only is she looking at this card and paying attention to this card, so if this card was, let's say, wealth, for example, she'd be paying attention to wealth or looking at wealth or being attentive to wealth. So you're looking at the past as well. So if someone asks a question about looking to the future or looking to the past, you're sort of looking again at the past. So a lot of interesting aspects to this card, and just a great card as far as protection, as far as secrets, as far as hiddenness. We have a lot of different things going on in the card. So let's go to the computer and check out the variances in this card over the years. So there's not a lot to work with here. We do have previous versions of this. You can see that the cloak, the inside of it, is all skin color, as well as the skin is now skin color. So we have more of a personable feel or a connection with other people that is going to be more obvious here. And we can, of course, look at, like I'm talking about, the pale skin versus the standard. And not only does the cloak have that, but it looks like there's a lot. The cloak is sort of veiled in the old, almost like that, almost the cloak is almost veiled like it's part of the connection. So interesting just how much variance we have between these two, both in the skin color and the fact that the book and the cloak and everything is that color. So this is like it's all combined. The protection is combined into the personality. The book as well is combined into the personality. So it's all sort of in there. So it's interesting just how that dynamic changes. Also, we have the inside of the robe is all red. So the inside of the robe is all red, sort of pointing to a lot of action or a lot of fire, a lot of desire, a lot of, needing to get out and move, needing to get out and take that action. But the outside of the cloak on this particular one is blue, indicating again that disconnection or that coldness. So we have an inner fire. In other words, how Pope Joan sort of leveled through the ranks and became Pope and did so well. So that inner fire, right? And yet so much of her personality was hidden. So she had to keep hidden. So she had that blue exterior. So this is an interesting combination between just all red on the inside, but trying to keep a hidden exterior on the outside. So that's sort of the differences here. Again, there's not a lot. The egg in the background is explained in Jodorowsky's book. So that is the La Papesse, and the differences sort of explained. So now let's do a couple of readings. The first reading, obviously this is making a decision, right? The Two of Wands, we're going to use this a lot. So again, making a decision, needing to make a decision, sort of a crossroads between two places. And again, this is abundance, wealth, a lot of good stuff. The Ten of Pentacles, always a great card. The Two of Wands, always sort of a mysterious crossroads. You need to determine what you need to do. So she's looking back at a decision. She's looking back at maybe one of the crossroads that she took, maybe one of the decisions or the choices that she made. And those choices are leading into wealth. So that's good. So she's looking back. Maybe she bought that lottery ticket at the right day and it led to wealth. Maybe she made a good purchase or a good investment and it led to more money. So we have this past, present, future feel. So she's looking back at there, and maybe some of it is the knowledge that the querent had or this person had. They had knowledge. They had knowledge to go get those numbers in the lottery. They had knowledge to make that investment. They heavily researched it. So you're looking at a lot of different aspects that contain within this card. Now you do have a level of protection. So let's say that we had maybe a bad card over here. Everyone's favorite struggle, trying to overcome the struggle, trying to get by. So we have trying to make these choices and then trying to overcome a conflict or something bad, the fives. So you have some level of protection going into this. So that protection is going into this. You have a bit of detachment as well, a bit of a detachment and protection going into this conflict. So that's going to be good. You're going to be prepared. You're going to be prepared via wisdom. You're going to be prepared via the veil. And you're going to have a better level of protection than something like, again, so you're going to have more protection at maybe a 180 degree level for that going into this conflict or going into this situation that's not going to be too great. So that is a reading that we can use as far as the protection, as far as the knowledge, and the detachment. Let's say you're going into this conflict and you have that level of detachment, which is going to be good. You have that detachment so you can make better decisions. you don't have your head clouded with tons of different emotions and confusing thoughts. You're going to go in concentrated, well-researched into this conflict, and that's a good thing. That is a great thing, as well as the leadership of the Pope. The leadership stands out as very dominant and prominent here. We definitely have the leadership. The clothing, maybe we have some secrets that we can take into this conflict and win. So that would be just a great thing overall for that. So overall, La Papesse is a fantastic major and a lot of symbolism, a lot of different things going on, and a memorable story as well to sort of key that into your long-term memory and use that in readings as you go forth with the TDM. So thank you so much for joining me for this, and I greatly appreciate your time and watching the video. Please hit like and subscribe